Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the IEA's 10th Annual Global Conference on Energy Efficiency. It's a pleasure to see so many people from so many places with us here this morning. You're all very welcome. And please, to formally open us and start the day, may I please call to the stage our co-hosts, Dr. Fatih Birol, the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, and Dan Jørgensen, the European Commissioner for Energy and Housing. Please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Brian. I am extremely honored to welcome you here as co-hosts of this important conference. Let me kick off by sharing with you just a few very tangible examples of what it is that we will be talking about today. I bet many of you, first thing this morning when you got up, you switch on the lights. If it was a LED bulb that you switched on, it used 90% less energy than if it was a traditional bulb. I bet probably most of you also then went to take a shower. Now, if water is boiled with a heat pump or a solar water heater rather than a standard boiler, that in Europe will typically save a family almost 900 euros per year. So these are small examples, obviously, but they show us a very important lesson. Energy efficiency has huge potential for savings. Now, I want to start by outlining what, from my perspective, is the main challenges that we face, at least in Europe, but I will argue in most countries on this planet when it comes to energy policy. One is accessibility and affordability. We have hundreds of millions of people on this planet who do not have access to clean energy. We have companies who are struggling to compete and to grow because their energy bills are too high. Now, at the same time, we are facing a tremendous climate crisis that unfortunately is just getting worse and worse. And if that wasn't a tall order in itself with those two huge challenges, for many countries, certainly in Europe, energy policy is also about security. So, if we start by looking at challenge number one, how do we make sure that we fight energy poverty? Clearly, energy efficiency needs to be at the core of our efforts. Now, you might think that energy poverty is predominantly something that you see in developing countries, and yes, obviously, it is a huge problem that we have hundreds of billions of people around the planet that do not have access to energy. But even in Europe, you might be surprised, but 1 in 10 Europeans are at the risk of energy poverty. And last winter, 47 million people were not able to adequately heat their homes. So, this is something that we need to address. And although we tend to focus on the deployment of more renewables for good reasons, renewables are cheaper. IEA has estimated that from 21 to 23 we saved almost 100 billion on our energy bills in Europe on deploying new renewables. But actually, the potential for most households, for most companies, will be even bigger if we deploy just known energy efficiency technologies. It demands investments, yes, but these investments pay back, and they pay back fast. For industry, every time €1 is spent on energy efficiency, it in general translates as an average into €4 in savings. And it does it within a few years. For households, it's even more. For households, in average, €1 spent on energy efficiency translates into €12 in savings. So the potential is huge. Now, climate change. As I said earlier, this is probably the biggest challenge that we face. Sure, there's a war on our continent, but I'm confident that there will be peace. Sure, we have strained relations across the Atlantic and trade wars are going on, but that will stabilize. We will find solutions. Unfortunately, climate change will continue to be the biggest challenge for all of us in this room the rest of our lives. And it's not something that might happen in the future. It's already here. And it already has catastrophic consequences. Floodings, droughts, forest fires. People are dying. So it's a moral imperative for us to address that challenge. Obviously, climate change hits the hardest in the most vulnerable parts of our planet, which makes the problem even bigger. But even in Europe, again, we see the consequences, and lives are lost. And we are, by the way, the continent where the temperatures are increasing the fastest. So we need to do more. Energy efficiency measures in the EU alone can deliver 40% of the reductions that we're required to deliver. Improving energy efficiency in buildings alone can make them up to 60% less carbon intensive. And since buildings are 40% of our energy use, you see that the potential is huge. Now, security, I know that this will differ depending on where you're from in the world, and we have people from all over the planet in this room today. But I would be remiss if I did not just spend a few minutes on the terrible war in Ukraine. We, of course, as a European Union, do whatever we can to help the people of Ukraine, the government of Ukraine, also in the energy sector. Unfortunately, the energy sector has been hit and is being targeted by the Russian attacks. And we spend a lot of resources helping as best we can. But the war also affects Europe. I used to be Minister for Climate and Energy in Denmark, and I also served in February 22 when the full-scale invasion began. And I can tell you that the first days and weeks, we spent all of our time making emergency plans. Which companies would we have to force to close down? And by force, I mean if they did not do it, we would send people in uniform in Denmark to close factories. This is almost incomprehensible, but we would have done it. Why? Because had worse come to worse, had Putin turned off the gas taps from one day to the next, then we would have had to keep our hospitals running and to make sure that people would not freeze. And Denmark wasn't even the most exposed country in Europe. So had Russia closed the gas supply, at that time we got 45% of our gas in Europe from Russia, then we would have been in the middle of a recession and a terrible crisis for millions and millions of people. So this was a very important lesson, because it showed us that being dependent on energy from one source is not a very nice and sustainable place to be, especially not if that source is your enemy. So very fastly we transitioned our strategy, and it wasn't about making emergency plans, it was about getting out of this dependency. So since then, we've reduced our energy imports. We used to get 51% of our coal from Russia, now we get 0. We used to get 27% of our oil, now we get 3. We used to get 45% of our gas, now we get 13. But we will not stop here. We've sent a very clear signal to Russia: no more. No more will we let you weaponize your energy against us. No more will we let you blackmail our countries. No more will we help indirectly fill the war chest of Kremlin. And the reason we've been able to do this is, yes, because we have diversified our supplies, yes, part of it, but also because we've reduced our use of gas by energy efficiency measures, by becoming more independent. And now, when we take the final steps, the last 13%, that's around 36 BCM a year. Some say, how can you do that without the prices increasing? Well, part of the reason is that we reduce our use of gas by 15 BCM per year. So it's going fast in the right direction because of energy efficiency. So, to fight climate change, to provide our people with affordable, clean energy, for our own security, energy efficiency needs to be at the core of everything we do. And we have a lot of progress in Europe and globally. At the same time, I do have to say, though, it's going too slow. We need to do more, and we need to do it faster. And that is what we will be going to discuss for the next hours and the rest of the day. I'm so pleased, and tomorrow, by the way, I'm so pleased to be here. And now I pass the floor to my very good friend, Fatih. I see him more than I see my mother these days, which is, and I love my mother, but still, I like it. Fatih, thank you so much for co-hosting this. The IEA does a fantastic job in general in energy policy, but I think especially on energy efficiency, because if we are honest with each other, quite too often in international settings, energy efficiency is a little bit forgotten, and we speak mostly about renewables. And of course, you know me, I also think renewables are extremely important, but energy efficiency is just as important, and you have been a leader in bringing this on the agenda. So thank you so much for this, and I look forward to working with you the next couple of days also. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. May I also join Commissioner Dan Jørgensen to welcome you to IEA's 10th Annual Global Conference on Energy Efficiency. Dear colleagues, it is a great honor, of course, to co-organize this event with the European Commission, with the Commissioner Dan Jørgensen. And as he mentioned, he's a man who pushes the energy efficiency very strongly throughout his life. I said this is the 10th one, and the 9th one we had the one previous one we had in Kenya. We have the Kenyan Secretary of Energy. Mr. Secretary, welcome to this event. Before we had in Paris, in Versailles, and the previous one was in Denmark. And again, then you hosted this very event. And dear colleagues, I want to thank Dan Jørgensen for something, and I am sure and I hope at least you will join me to thank him. I don't know if any of you remember, what did you do at your last birthday? I don't, to be honest with you. I thought this morning, I really don't. And can you think of a commissioner? He comes and attends an energy efficiency conference on his birthday and the 50th birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Commissioner. And we have some flowers for Mr. Commissioner. And I am sure then you will never forget your birthday with the 100 countries around the world celebrating your very birthday. And please pass our regards to your mom and thanks to her for bringing you birth. So, dear colleagues, we have also honored with several distinguished friends and colleagues here, but we are especially honored with the presence of His Majesty, the King of Latvia, the King of Lesotho. His Majesty, very welcome, and thank you very much for your presence here. We have here, according to the numbers I was given, some 700 participants from 100 countries from all continents. And I would say it is extremely timely. The world is going through very unpredictable times. It is a low-trust world. And in a low-trust world, countries do choose secure energy choices for energy security reasons mainly. And I believe energy efficiency is or should be one of the first policy options that the countries need to look into. Because the tendency to use more and more domestic energy sources, from renewables to many other energy sources, should include, in my view, perhaps the most important domestic energy source, which is energy efficiency potential. And we hope that this meeting will give ideas to those 100 countries around the world to make more use of your efficiency policies. Dear colleagues, we think at the IEA there are many reasons to improve energy efficiency. The very first one, and Mr. Commissioner also mentioned, very basic one, affordability of energy prices. For the households, they use a lot of energy. We'll talk about it in the next session. About 1/3 of the global energy is used in buildings. By right policies, we can lower the energy bills, which is a very important option to increase the income levels of the families. Affordability is one reason. The second one is the competitiveness. For the industry, we have several industry representatives here, to produce any good, the cost of energy is critical. And if you have the right efficiency policies, standards there, then you bring the cost of energy down, and those companies will be in a competitive position vis-à-vis others through lower energy costs. If you look at around the world, the companies, for example, in East Asia, in Japan, Korea, the countries where you don't have huge energy sources are very competitive, mainly as a result of being very energy efficient operations. This is the second reason. And the third reason, I mentioned the energy security. The less energy you use at home, the more energy you use efficiently means the less energy you import, less reliance on other countries. For example, in the case of Europe, my colleagues have calculated that if Europe didn't take in the last 10 years, the efficiency measures Europe did, then the natural gas imports would have been 20% higher than they are now. So these are all important areas that why we need to improve energy efficiency in terms of affordability of the families, for the households, in terms of the energy security, and in terms of competitiveness. And of course, energy efficiency helps to reduce the emissions as well. During COP28 meeting in Emirates, more than 200 countries signed a document that they said they would like to, in other words, they commit, in fact, to improve the global energy efficiency improvement about 4%. Yet, when we look at the numbers, in the last 2 years, energy efficiency improvement was much, much, much slower than that, which is, of course, not a good news. And these challenges can be addressed in the case of energy efficiency much more easier than any parts of the energy system. You do not need to discover new technologies. I'll give you one example. Today, global electricity demand is skyrocketing, electricity demand. Much, much higher than the energy demand. You know what is the main driver of the global electricity demand growth? Why electricity is growing so strongly? Some people say AI, data centers. Yes, it plays a role, but not the main one. Some people say electric cars. Yes, it does, but not the main one. Industry sector, yeah, but not so much. The main driver, single most important driver of global electricity demand growth in the world today, the increasing sales of air conditioners. Okay? Air conditioners around the world. And this is a human right to have reasonable temperatures that the families do live. In the last 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, we had the highest temperatures on record. And many countries, the ownership of air conditioners are very, very low. I mentioned Japan or United States. 90% of households, they have an air conditioner. But in Nigeria, it is 5%, Indonesia, 19%, India, 20%. People with the increasing income levels and increasing temperatures by air conditioners. Where is the problem? The problem is the following. Again, based on the IEA data, we have the data tracking entire energy system. Today, an average air conditioner sold in the world, its efficiency performance is only the half of what is best available in the markets. So there is a major, major gap there. If we were to improve the efficiency of the air conditioners, we would have need less energy, more money will be left in the pocket, and reduce the emissions. Dear colleagues, this is the 10th, our Global Energy Efficiency Conference. Why the IEA? We work on all fuels, on all technologies. Why we take energy efficiency so seriously? We consider energy efficiency as the very first fuel. Before oil, before gas, before solar, before hydropower, before nuclear power, before anything, the first fuel is energy efficiency. And every country has the energy efficiency potential. So what we do at the IEA is the following. First, we have all the data in the world. All the air conditioners, refrigerators, households, the transportation system, everything. We analyze them. We make policy analysis, and we follow the technologies. So this is on the information side. The second layer, we make recommendations to different governments around the world. And I'm very proud that when I go different countries, I hear that I was recently talking with the Indonesian minister. They were thankful that the IEA helped them for the efficiency of trucks. For India, for the industry sector efficiencies. In Mexico, in terms of appliances. We make suggestions to countries how to put the efficiency policies, standards, and norms and regulations. And not only that, we measure the impact of those policies. What went right, what went wrong, how we can improve it with those countries. So this is another area that we work. Another area, dear colleagues, energy efficiency policies are something like learning by doing. If you learn in one country how you put the efficiency standards for refrigerators, more or less you can translate it to another country. So therefore, what we are doing is, I think it is the 20th, recently, we organized the Energy Efficiency Training Week, and we made this around the world, from Rio to Jakarta, from Nairobi to Singapore, many parts of the world. More than 3,000 policymakers we have trained how to make the better energy efficiency policies. So I am thankful to my colleague, Brian Motherway, who is our energy efficiency guru. It was, when I became the executive director, my first decision was to hire Brian. It was a good decision. So thank you very much, Brian, to joining the IEA and leading this our energy efficiency team from success to success. But dear colleagues, as Mr. Commissioner mentioned, for the IEA, energy efficiency, together with other energy policies, are crucial to have a better life, energy life for everybody around the world. So this is how we see the importance of energy efficiency in the context of affordability, in the context of energy security, in the context of competitiveness, and in the context of addressing our climate challenges. And IEA is there to work with all the governments, industry, the academia, and the businesses to have a much more efficient world. And the more efficient we are, we think the more peaceful the energy world will be. So I thank you very much, and welcome to our 10th Annual Global Energy Efficiency Conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatih, and thank you for acknowledging my birthday and for the beautiful flowers. Me being here today is my personal contribution to implementing the principle of energy efficiency first. I had one of my friends wrote me this morning. It wasn't a kind message, actually, when you think about it. He wrote, "So now that you are an elderly gentleman, you need to start preserving your energy." So it's only fitting that you use today at an energy efficiency conference. So I want to just briefly, before we move on to the next session, also say a few words about what is my priority for the mandate that I've been given by President Ursula von der Leyen for the next 5 years. I've set out 10 action areas regarding energy efficiency, and they include, further mobilization of public and private financing investments, strengthening integration of energy efficiency solutions into energy systems, support cooperation among stakeholders, so for instance, financial institutions and energy efficiency solution providers, enhancing international cooperation on energy efficiency, as for instance at a conference like this, but also with more concrete bilateral collaboration and multilateral collaboration. We're beginning right away. We've already done some efforts, I'm sure you've noticed, and we are focusing on 5 big areas of action. That includes a guarantee scheme for energy efficiency solutions, which we are preparing together with the European Investment Bank. I want to double the current level of energy efficiency services by providing easier access to financing, in particular for small and medium-sized enterprises. I'm also developing tripartite contracts for energy efficiency solutions to scale up projects and reduce barriers for fast changes on the ground. And finally, I'll mention that I will propose a data center energy efficiency package, since data centers, as you mentioned, Fatih, are at the rise, and they account for closely to 3% of EU's electricity demand. We are in the Commission also very much focused to advancing on our global pledge. We are mobilizing 300 billion from our Global Gateway initiative towards sustainable infrastructure investments, including energy efficiency. And we try to provide leadership and enable cooperation through the Global Energy Transition Forum launched by President von der Leyen. So, with those words, I want to introduce today's first panel. We would very much like you to discuss which barriers do you see for achieving a doubling of global energy efficiency progress by 2030, and how do we overcome these barriers? How do we best harness the low-hanging fruits that are there to rapidly accelerate efficiency gains? How do we make sure that international cooperation actually happens and delivers tangible results? How do we make sure that COP30 also delivers on these issues? All of these questions and more I very much hope that you will touch upon. So, in the panel, we will have Mr. Matola, Minister of Energy of Malawi, Tom Eriksson, CEO of Alta Laval, Christina Gamboa, CEO of World Green Building Council, Mrs. Abdulhamini, Global Focal Point, and youth from the Youth Constituency, SDG Youth Constituency. Thank you so much.
And the Sherpas of the Azeri minister. What's that? Azeri minister. So we also invite Mr. Shahbazov, of course, here, Minister of Azerbaijan. Mr. Minister, please visit. Thank you very much. So, dear colleagues, thank you very much. Then see you in 1 hour, and in the meantime, please enjoy your birthday activities. So, dear colleagues, we have 5 different colleagues from different parts of the society of our continent, and we want to hear their perspective, what they think about energy efficiency from their perspective, from their countries, from their sectors, from their daily activities. I would like to start, if I may, with Mr. Ibrahim Matola, Minister of Energy of Malawi. I mentioned that the last Global Energy Efficiency Conference was in Africa, in Kenya, in Nairobi. It was an excellent event as well. So, Mr. Minister, if I can turn to you, from Malawi's perspective, from Africa's perspective, what do you see the energy efficiency? Is it an important policy tool, or is it more for the Western world, you think?
First and foremost, let me thank you very much for inviting me to this high table and discussing the issues which are affecting our globe. And before I answer your question, I think let me give the opportunity to the audience that they should greet the one who is on the left and the one on the right, so that they may know each other. Indeed, thank you very much. I know now we know who is your neighbor. Let me recognize also Lesotho, that is part of this delegation on a high-level panel. In Malawi, energy efficiency measures and practices are used to reduce a lot of wastage of electricity, energy, and biomass in end-use activities such as cooking, water, and space heating, as well as lighting. We also use energy efficiency measures to reduce transmission and distribution losses of power of the supply side. In this regards, energy efficiency measures in Malawi covers industries, households, and buildings. And I've learned today that the most consuming issue is about the AC, air conditioning. Because people, since COVID, they're working at home, up to date. Most of the countries are still working at home. So the consuming of air conditioning is taking place. Power line infrastructure and even the spares of renewable energy efficiency. On renewable energy integration, Malawi power supply mix is currently dominated by hydro at 72% and solar PV at 18%. This remaining balance comes from the emergency and peaking diesel power plants. On the grid side, we are using battery storage to harvest and used during off-peak to provide auxiliary services when the grid is distributed due to low solar generation. So you can understand that in the households and buildings in Malawi has been deploying efficient light bulbs, mainly the LEDs and energy saver bulbs. From 2011 to 2023, Malawi has managed to save 88 megawatts demand with the use of energy saver bulbs. Apart from that, with the introduction of energy efficiency bulbs, households have saved a lot of cost in electricity bills. I think for the time being, let me stop there by explaining that this is what has been done in Malawi so far.
Mr. Minister, this is excellent. May I ask you one question? This is very impressive what you said about LED lighting. You think this can be an example or source of inspiration for other countries around Malawi? What kind of policies you put in place and how it worked?
If indeed most of the countries in Southern Sahara, Sub-Sahara region, if they can put the policy of using the LED bulbs, it can serve the purpose of reducing what we are consuming a lot. And for that to happen, we need to start with the government buildings. In order for us to achieve this goal, we need all government buildings to change our policy and our actions. Time for actions is now, that we need to put everything into place.
Okay. Your advice is start from the government buildings to the private households later. Thank you very much, and congratulations for that, Mr. Minister. A big achievement, I would say. May I go to another country, Azerbaijan? Mr. Minister, we heard from the Commissioner that Europe went through difficult times after the war started, and Azerbaijan, by increasing the gas exports to Europe at the difficult times, showed again what a reliable partner you are to Europe. But also, in addition to gas, there are some, in the COP29 you organized in Baku, you announced a new project, a green corridor through Black Sea region. So what are your thoughts? Azerbaijan is an energy-rich country. Is energy efficiency important in Azerbaijan, despite the richness of the energy?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this important conference. The global energy landscape undergone fundamental changes in the recent years, and it is already clear that the energy efficiency is recognized as an important, as we call it, first fuel of the energy transition and energy security, if you wish. And if we before also were saying that the energy efficiency was the hidden source of energy or invisible source of energy, today we can state that we can already see this potential. But we have to work together, because it's not easy to get the energy efficiency in place in any sector. Dear Dr. Birol, let me also underline your personal contribution to this sphere and congratulate you and your able team for this 10th conference, because you dedicate so much, time, resources, energy to the energy efficiency, and it has not been so easy to bring this topic into the top of the international agenda, and you are doing it very successfully, and it's very important. And the countries like, for example, Azerbaijan, which has been traditionally oil and gas producing and exporting country, has now embarked very seriously on the energy transition through renewables and also energy efficiency. Another thank which I would like to express here to your organization is in accordance with the fact that we received from you the roadmap how to get the energy efficiency in place. And we are working on this, and we already see in which areas it has already been here very comprehensively discussed. It is buildings, transportation, it's the heating system, energy system, entire energy system, and we have now different instruments to work on this. But at the same time, what we need, of course, I mean not only in Azerbaijan, but worldwide, we need more investments, we need more concrete projects, very much concrete. The feasibility studies with the concrete figures in order to convince those who are in charge of these studies or the implementation of those projects. And that's why we need, of course, more international cooperation. This is, I mean, only few instruments that we need to have in our hands in order to move forward. But I also would like, you named the international and regional international projects like the Azerbaijan, Black Sea, Europe interconnectors. This is another area where we have to also concentrate, because through these international interconnectors, we can do a lot. We can do a lot for energy transition. We can do a lot for energy efficiency as well, because we can bring together, despite of the distances, the centers of productions, generations, with the centers of consumptions, and we can also bring more balances to the grids, and we can, through these activities, provide for much more energy efficiency not on a national, but on the international, on the global way. And this is what we can do. Another issue is the best practices. For example, if we take Azerbaijan, in Azerbaijan we have already 2 green energy zones. The first one has been declared by President of Azerbaijan after liberation of our territories after the Armenian occupation. And now this territory has become green energy and is producing more green energy than is consuming, at the same time providing the more green energy to the other regions. But the green energy zone means at the same time that the different green technologies are applied in this area, from rooftop solar panels to the insulation, central heating system, and so on. So, and these best practices now just becoming to be used in other parts of the country. And as you remember, during the COP29, it was a topic we had, as a presidency, initiated 3 initiatives, global initiatives in the energy field. It was the interconnectors, green energy zones, and hydrogen. So these 3 topics have been very widely supported by the international community, and we are continuing to work in this sphere. I mean, we have to work nationally, but at the same time have to pay a lot of attention to the international practices, as it has been already mentioned here, to bring more experiences, best practices to the different parts of the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, can I ask you briefly something that came to my mind when you were speaking? Energy efficiency policies save energy in an energy importing country should be easier to implement than a country like yourself. You have a lot of energy exporting, you're energy rich. Is it more difficult for you to convince the other stakeholders, other ministers, or the population over there?
Absolutely true. This is yeah, very justifiable question. But at the same time, I have to say that the energy efficiency is important as for importing, also for producing and exporting countries. If you can prove the benefits of this. The climate action benefits are there, it is clear. At the same time, we could prove in Azerbaijan that the renewable sources of energy, along with the climate change, they also have very clear economic benefits. They are very much profitable, and that's why they worked very well. And we could, in a very short period of time, attract 2.7 billion investments into the renewable sectors. So the same we would like to do with the energy efficiency. But they are the neighboring sectors, so they are very close to each other. And we think about that, and coming out from your action plan, we see very clear figures. What we need, maybe more work together, more detailed programs and presentations for the governments. But I think this is, you are absolutely right, this is a very good point, and energy efficiency is important for all the countries. We can, if we can, prove it and bring it to the attention of the governments in the right way.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and good luck to you,
Thank you.
Mr. Minister. Dear colleagues, as Mr. Minister mentioned, for many countries, and different sectors in a country, we develop roadmaps. What needs to be done, which measures, by which institutions. We have at the IEA an army of energy efficiency experts, very bright colleagues. Some of them I see here with us, Mel Slate and others. So if any country wants to, many of you work, but if any country have idea to work together, please let them know. As I mentioned, a big chunk of the energy is consumed in building sector, about 1/3. And I give you one frustrating, at least for me, statistics. At the IEA, we always talk with numbers. Half of the buildings today in the world built, they have no building standards and codes. So it is the reason I would like to ask Mrs. Christina Gamboa, who is the CEO of the World Building Council, which brings so many councils around the world together, to tell us how difficult it is, how challenging it is to have norms and standards for buildings. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Fatih. Yes, and you know, as you were talking in this opening speech of how there are no labeling or standards for air conditioning, it's kind of the same situation in buildings, mainly around the world, where you don't have clarity on the policies, or at least, I would say, political ownership that every single country around the world should have energy efficient labeling for buildings. We're just at that moment in time in history where minimum energy performance requirements should be there, because as citizens, and also the three main things you summarized about this conference: affordability, competitiveness, and security. So energy has to be affordable. So I think it is a duty to ensure that citizens have efficient, warm, or cool homes. It's just a political duty to serve the citizens with those standards. So yeah, affordability. Security, of course, it means around electrifying buildings, leapfrogging, reducing and fossil fuel use, and making sure those homes are safe, the air is clean. And around competitiveness, it's just a basic thing. If you use less of a thing to produce more, well, it's actually a great business case. So as industry says, it's a no-brainer, right? Why is this then not happening? At World GBC, we've been setting up this amazing global network that we've partnered through the IEA throughout the years, where we're now in over 75 countries with green building councils. And the main thing is that we are precisely on that journey of the title of the same session, from awareness to ambition to action. And I believe we need to make it the era of implementation. We know everything that needs to be done. So I think what we need to continue to do is, we saw in the last few years great mobilization of stakeholders around zero carbon buildings, which are setting the mark around understanding performance. For that performance, energy efficiency is the first fuel, most definitely. It gets you almost all of the way towards getting that building right. And then, of course, as you were saying also, the roadmaps. There has to be clarity at the country level of what needs to happen first. And policymakers, as you were saying, Minister, need an understanding of, is it feasible, is it technically feasible, is it doable, right? But I would turn it around. I think we're in the age where we need political will that gives the direction of travel for this basic policy of putting labeling in buildings. And then that will create the certainty for the financial markets to continue to create the mechanisms to retrofit at home, to retrofit commercial space. In Holland, we saw a great policy that they started with the minimum energy performance requirements for commercial spaces over 100 square meters back in 2018, 2019. That were below what the labeling system is, the EPC, right? The energy performance certificate. And it was 20% of the buildings were above an EPC C at that time. Today, those commercial buildings are at 70% above a C, so they're efficient. And what does it matter that they are efficient? They're not wasting energy. And in the age of security, why would we waste energy? Again, for me, it's a no-brainer. So I think for us to get this over the line in this age of implementation, I would encourage us to think about progressive partnerships and collaboration. And I think we have all the right people in the room today to get that message out. Because I think, for example, there was alongside the great important win of getting countries to commit to doubling the rate of energy efficiency, as Fatih said. Well, that takes political dialogue and ownership under, for example, the breakthrough agenda that most countries are participating in. And there's a buildings breakthrough agenda, where the global ABC, high-level climate champions, World GBC, IEA, have been in clarity of what is working and what country and what can we take it next where to bring that consensus on energy efficiency. There is now a definition agreed by the countries under standards and codes and what needs to happen. And now we just have to encourage policymakers to bring it over the line. I think that is the most important thing, because if we get this right through energy efficiency alone, the built environment can unlock investment opportunities in $1.8 trillion by 2030. If we double the rate of energy efficiency, if investments are right now at like around 250 billion, they should be 520 billion per year. That's where we're at. That would create jobs, industry competitive, as I said, saving energy, saves costs, no-brainer, improving energy security, divesting from fossil fuels, and improving affordability, lower energy bills, and indirectly, in a way, I know we have energy ministers around the room, that will make it also less costly for the grid transformation of peak demand. Because eventually buildings are smart. There is data, there can be an integration. And even for those communities that are vulnerable, if we are tracking things and thinking performance, then we will get this over the line. So I think it's an age of integrating those immense benefits of energy efficiency that delivers for people, cleaner air, lower bills, and at the end of the day, it is around stronger communities.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think we made a mistake. My colleagues don't make a mistake. You are not World Green Business Council, World Green Building Council, no?
Yes, building,
So
but I'm business too. I can be business too.
But we don't change the names of the people and the organizations so easily.
No, but my first name is
So
okay.
may I ask you one question?
Yes.
So I understand that retrofitting to make a building efficient might have challenges, difficulties, so on. But for the buildings from the scratch, when you build a new building, it is so easy to have the norms and standards so that you need less heating and less cooling expenses and needs to have the right insulation. Why it is not working? Briefly, can you tell us what is the major obstacle in front of that? Is it the lack of standards, lack of codes, building codes, or having the codes and not following it through? What is the main problem?
That's right. There may be codes and people don't follow them right if there's no enforcement. And that has to go deeper. I haven't seen a study that has challenged countries that have codes and see, are they really working? Well, we know from the energy use a little bit if they're using them or not, but sometimes they're not that enforced and linked to the financial markets where this can get done. But I think the key things, the low-hanging fruits here in this space from getting things right from the start. And this question is quite relevant from a geopolitical standpoint because the emerging markets are building are urbanizing still. So we have to get that right for the retrofitting part of the existing stock not to be done away in the benefits through what is going to be built. If that is not done in an efficient and proper way, we will be seeing energy use, AC, heating, cooling go up. How can we get this right? I think there is a moment now of a realization that we have to continue to support the governments in a way to set out standards and codes that actually spell out the basic performance that is expected from the design phase. This means better insulation, better design, designing for LED light bulbs from the start, automation that gives the information back to the grid for that performance and ongoing performance. And in a way, the industry is ready with all this technical expertise, but we also need some sort of modular, efficient, industrialized construction to make the industry be more modern. And I think that is going to really change the dynamics and make it feasible, because if we're just a one project at a time, that is where it falls down because people sometimes don't have the technical capacity.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, dear colleagues, when we look at sometimes the newspapers, these major companies, in terms of the business volumes, the major oil and gas companies were #1, and we have seen that the technology companies, some of the technology companies, thanks to the AI, took over those companies. And I always wanted to see and the efficiency manufacturing company in the top of the list. But I have not seen yet, but I really want to see sometime soon. So we are very fortunate today, one of the major manufacturers, CEO Alfa Laval, Mr. Tom Eriksson with us. Thank you very much being the CEO there. And you are also the part of the energy efficiency movement with the other companies. And very many thanks to you and your partners for helping us to organize this very event. From a manufacturer point of view, how do you see the energy efficiency gathering momentum or not yet? And because you are active across the world.
Yes, we are. And thank you also for allowing us to co-host. I sit here primarily in my capacity as CEO for Alfa Laval, but I think it's important to recognize that in some modest sense, I represent the 600 global members of the energy efficiency movement and thousands of companies above that. I think today when you follow the media, the idea that the energy transition is slowing is true, but it's still more momentum now than we had ever before. And almost all of us in the manufacturing sector, we switch by option, not by necessity, but we made a conscious commercial strategic options about 5-6 years ago, most of us, that the decarbonization was something that we wanted to participate in. We wanted to develop the technology, find the solutions. All of us could have done it differently. We could have chosen to spend our efforts on something else. But we believe the direction of decarbonizing the world is the right thing to do, and there has to be a business opportunity following it. So obviously, as companies, we need to be engaged in something that has a business future. But there are thousands of companies that by choice is investing more than ever before in the transition. What have we learned over the last 5 years or so? And I think the biggest learning has been decarbonization is not a one solution type of thing. It's a toolbox. And we talk about energy transition today, but I remind you all that the questions around renewable solar, wind, hydrogen, carbon capture. It all plays a big role. And if we look where we are on that today, and I leave the, the wind side, aside a bit, we had a problem to make the projects move. And when projects don't move, technology don't develop. And when technology don't develop, skills are not built. And so we're struggling a little bit to get over the hurdle. And the one market country that has been different in that sense is China. In China, the commercialization and scaling of solar, of batteries, of EVs, and to some degree even on the wind side, they've shown the way for how you can scale a technology, make it competitive, make it affordable, and make it doable. So while we in Europe and the rest of the world sometimes get a little bit hung up on state subsidies and things like that in China, we also have to take a step back and say, okay, what did they do right in scaling a number of models that we have not been able to scale in Europe or in the US? So I think, this question of where we're going to end up on hydrogen, carbon capture, and a few others is still open. And there's a lot of opportunities for international business, including European, to move in that. Now, on energy efficiency, I think obviously that's why we're here. We believe there is a great opportunity in that. And I reiterate maybe some of your comments, Fatih, before. But when it comes to the energy efficiency issues, there is no technology risk. We know it. And we've done it before. And we can scale it. Because it's existing platforms, it's easy to scale. So energy efficiency projects, they don't have technology risks. We have broad-based, not least in Europe, a lot of the world leaders in this. So in terms, if I take the European hat on, the ability to create economic development in connection with energy efficiency side is quite good. And lastly, as you are on to, there is a revenue stream in energy efficiency. There is an automatic payback, which may not be good enough, but at least it's a starting point for getting a bankable project. And I think what we need, so if we look at the energy efficiency projects that can be done, I think building is obviously an important side of it, but we are talking about hundreds of millions of individual projects. So I think it's a regulatory issue how you deal with that. On the industrial side, it's enough to take the top 1,000 projects and find a way to make those in terms of heat recovery or efficiency measures of other kinds. You can define those as bankable projects. And then you need a public-private partnership on that. You need somehow to create a framework for allowing, I think, mainly contracting away the risk of volatile energy prices. As long as you can eliminate the technical risk, which is gone, and the commercial risk of volatility and energy prices that makes it difficult to predict the savings, you can actually have quite a good basis for private capital coming in and public sector to providing certain commercial guarantees when it comes to, a kind of a contract for difference, if you like. So I think there are paths to go forward on that. And I will end by saying that I think from an industrial point of view, and there are different views in the industry, so we're not all on the same page on this, but a lot of us are under the firm belief that while we are looking for certain partnerships and contributions from the public sector, the ETS system in Europe and similar systems around the world in terms of putting a price on emissions is a complete foundation for us to be able to continue. And we really, from business, urge that the ETS systems and the like around the world are being established, are being adhered to, is creating a political stability for the next 10, 20 years. So we know where the political framework is for us to invest in the future.
Thank you very much. In fact, along those lines, I have one question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer, or if there is an answer to that. I mean, you are a manufacturer and you are big around the world. You work with many governments, and here in this room, and thousands of people are following this live. There are many ministers, many governments. If you were to pick up one thing from the governments that would make your life easier for the public-private partnership, what would it be? Is there a common denominator that the governments have more or less the same attitude and it can be improved in this or that way? Would you be able to pick up one thing?
Well, it's a question of what to do and not to do. So
you can do both. You can say both.
My primary comment will be, and this is a lesson from EU last Commission, we over-regulated. And you cannot drive private sector business by regulation alone. And so let's hold back.
Simplify.
So yeah, so let's take that a little bit out. Of course, we need to operate in a paradigm. We all understand that, but it's not going to drive the solution. I think the willingness to commit to specific projects and get momentum based on 1 project, 2 projects, 3 projects, that's the way. So there needs to be a clear understanding, and I think this will vary greatly across geographies. I don't think there is, an international priority list that should be followed. Each economy, stage of economy, climate, industrial base will affect what national governments do. But I think to move a couple of flagship problems so that we build momentum, expertise, competence, experience. Right now, there's too little experience in executing a lot of the new technologies.
And this applies to Europe, or you think globally?
I think certainly globally.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because we have here ministers from Europe, but also from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Americas as well. So, dear colleagues, we at the IEA believe that the voice from the youth is very important to integrate the international energy policy making. So therefore, we are very honored to have a youth delegate, SDG 7 delegate here, Mrs. Hadize Abdulmamini. Mrs. Abdulmamini, what do you see from the youth perspective? How important energy efficiency is, and whether or not young people do understand the critical importance of energy efficiency?
Thank you, Dr. Birol, and to the organizers first for this opportunity. It's an honor to join this panel alongside leaders from industry, government, and civil society to join this discussion on how we can move from awareness to ambition and then crucially to action and energy efficiency. So first, let me start by saying I'm from Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian, and I'm really happy to join the discussion on energy efficiency. But one thing that is also very important, and for us not to forget, is that we have 750 million people that today still don't have access to electricity, and over 2 billion that still do not have access to clean cooking. And these are not just numbers, it's the daily hardship that they go through in their lives. Now, moving to energy efficiency, I serve as the global focal point of the SDG 7 Youth Constituency, co-chair of the Arena Youth Council, and a member of the IEA Global Commission on People-Centered Clean Energy Transitions. So today, I bring with me the voice of millions of young people who are concerned about climate change and about energy efficiency. So for us, energy efficiency is not just a policy document. It's very critical and fundamental to the security of our future, our prosperity, and our well-being. And therefore, we believe that urgent and ambitious actions are very, very essential. Now, moving in terms of how connected are we? One thing that is very critical is that globally we see the growing awareness, the growing commitment in terms of energy efficiency, but there's that disconnect in terms of skilling the youth. And we all know youth are agents of behavioral change. So if we really want that lasting impact, it's very important that we also invest in the skilling of youth in energy efficiency, and we'll be able to see results. And then secondly, at the constituency, there are a lot of projects that I see innovations led by youth in terms of energy efficiency and other critical areas of renewable energy. And we do it through this program that we call Youth Sustainable Energy Hub. So it's a program where we showcase youth-led energy projects across the globe. So we have ones on clean cooking. There's what we call Gilson Filer Stove. We have the one on Dewey School. It's a Cameroonian project. So it's a solar-powered storage system for rural communities that do not have access to electricity. Then we have Energize. I'm pointing all this to show that youths are actually ready, and because of the passion they have and the concern they have for this climate change, there are a lot of innovative ideas that they have. And then I do agree that collaboration is key. We have all these innovative ideas, but then oftentimes there's that disconnect. You have the ideas, but then the funding is not there. the mentorship is not there and you just don't know how to scale it. For us, we are lucky we have the partnership of the IEA, for instance, IRENA, SC for All, UNIDO, UNDP, and we're able to provide mentorship, capacity building, and that really helps. But then it's very important that as we live today, we commit to ourselves that we are going to invest in youth scaling. We are going to invest in youth innovations, and then together we will be able to build that energy efficient future that we're all looking for.
We have the Secretary of Energy of Nigeria with us here today. What would you like to tell him as a Nigerian?
I would say invest in youths. Youths are passionate. We are ready. Don't see us as how do we include youths? How do we? No. Make us part of the decision-making process and the follow-ups. This is very important because oftentimes the conversation is around how do we include youths? And then oftentimes we are maybe invited to speak at events, and that's it. But in terms of influencing the decision-making, the follow-ups, we are simply not there. So let us move from inclusion to, say, partnerships. We really have the innovative ideas, creativity, and that long-term outlook that would allow us to fill that gap between geographies and sectors. So do give us the chance, because we are the ones that are faced with the consequences of the decisions that are being made today.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, we have heard very different perspectives from distinguished colleagues, 5 distinguished colleagues, 2 government ministers, one energy exporting country, the other one energy importing country in Africa, the other one Asia, a major manufacturer, and the building council, the voice of the buildings, and also the voice of youth. We see youth as a contributor, not a troublemaker, I can tell you that. So please join me thank this wonderful, very rich conversation with our colleagues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Çok teşekkürler. Azerbaycan'ın şeyini yapıyoruz. Mr. Minister, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Of course, always. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are from Sweden.
Yes, I am.
I am going to Sweden now, to Stockholm.